Hello and welcome to The Stinger, a superfan's guide to Marvel, Star Wars, and much more in fandom. I'm Josh Gann, and with me today, they've scoured through the Jedi archives to view the entire Star Wars timeline to prepare. It's your favorite co-hosts, Trent, Neely, and Joseph Snead. How we doing, guys?
Excited to explore some different worlds, excited to see what's out there in the between spaces of different universes or something
Ooh.
other phrasing that might be about that.
Yeah, looking at worlds within worlds and opportunities.
Between worlds. There's so much possibility today. I cannot wait. Oh my goodness, there's so much to talk about. And just you mentioned the word Star Wars these days. There's a lot to talk about. So, as always, thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us on the podcast. As always, you can subscribe wherever you get your podcast, and you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you can follow us on Instagram at The Stinger Pod, and then also on TikTok, same name at The Stinger Pod. And I'm gonna double down and just say, subscribe and follow everywhere, because we're cranking out some stuff right now. We're cranking out some heat. You know, if you missed last week, we did our sports movie draft and had an absolute blast with that. If you spent this weekend watching football, like I did, hopefully you weren't as miserable as I was. And you're in the sports mood, then go back and listen to our sports draft movie. It was truly our sports movie draft. It was truly a wonderful time. Trent, I ran the poll. I ran the poll on whose team won.
Mm-hmm.
And it was between me, you, and then we had, my brother-in-law, our guest, Zach Goolsby on. Who do you think won? Like, honestly, who do you think won?
I think you did, just because the power of that High School Musical basketball pick could not be surmounted. I think that got, it was such a clever, borderline ineligible, but also perfect pick for basketball that, it can't be beat.
Trent, I'm honored. I'm honored that you would think that. I did, you do have to get borderline ineligible. I think, make it a little spicy, a little risky. But neither of us won, Trent. Zachary was hailed victor, by even going probably more off the deep end by picking Hunger Games as a sport movie. That was just chaos.
That was wild. I mean, sport, war, crime. Where does it actually fall? Who can say?
And are they the same?
Who selected Shaolin Soccer?
So that was gonna be that was in my backup for team wildcard. I kid you not. That was in the running.
Would you have picked that? Would you have picked that, Joseph? Is that top 6 sports movie for you?
I'd probably take Shaolin Soccer, kicking and screaming.
I love it, man. I love it. Yeah, I've never seen it, but I've heard the legends of it. Kicking
and Screaming, starring
Will Ferrell.
The last good coach that the Chicago Bears had.
Wait, tell me. Wait, what?
Oh, Josh, I'm disappointed a little bit.
Have you not seen Kicking and Screaming?
I've not seen Kicking and Screaming.
Okay, that's different.
Oh, man. So Will Ferrell's the head coach, and his assistant is Ditka.
Yeah.
Are you? I was about to say, you better tell me Mike Ditka was in him. All right, yeah. I found my movie homework.
Yeah, I think it's still on Netflix right now. So.
Go get him, Big Bong.
That's a core movie in Haley's childhood. So I gotta go find that out. I got Will Ferrell and Mike Ditka on the same sideline.
Yeah, and then who is it? Robert Duvall is Will Ferrell's dad.
Yeah,
and
he's my God,
he's like the coach that Will Ferrell's trying to beat. He's trying to beat his dad.
I would like to send out a PSA to Ryan Poles, current general manager of the Chicago Bears, and just say the blueprint's out there, and Will Ferrell and Mike Ditka would be the perfect coaching combination. I'm just saying. It sounds like that would be the perfect combo. So let's go out there and hire some winning head coaches, please.
Oh, it worked. It worked in that movie. They won. Spoiler.
All right, that's my movie homework this week. Thank you guys for enlightening me.
Hey, when in doubt, pass it to the Italians.
Yeah.
All right. Guys, we could probably talk football for another 30 minutes
We
and
could.
have an absolutely great time. But we are here to
Real
talk Star
football.
Wars instead. We are here to talk Star Wars instead. We've got bigger fish to fry today. All right. So spoiler warning now. Okay. I feel like the next if you want to skip ahead to when we actually start discussing the main content of this podcast, maybe skip ahead about 5 minutes. But right now, we have to clear the air. Why is this episode happening? Spoiler warning for those of you who have not seen Ahsoka yet and haven't seen the most recent episode, episode 4. We got reintroduced to a incredible concept in the Star Wars universe, and that is the world between worlds. Yes, we saw Anakin Skywalker meeting Ahsoka in the world between worlds, and it was unlike anything we've ever seen in live action Star Wars. It was beautiful sight. I'm actually, Joseph, I'm gonna put you on the spot here for our guests who maybe aren't as familiar. Maybe they've seen the most recent episode of Ahsoka, but they're not familiar with the animated universe. Could you give like a little, just brief minute description of what the world between worlds is?
So it was introduced in the Rebels episode titled "The World Between Worlds," or I think the title is "A World Between Worlds." But essentially, it's almost like an interdimensional space thing where you can observe the past, present, and future potentially through the Force. So it's like when you're in there, you're almost like the Watcher in What If? You could be like observing. Sometimes you could maybe pull people out of duels with Darth Vader. And it's kind of weird, but also you're like, this thing is kind of cool. I don't really know how it works, but it's like a interdimensional time observance pocket.
That's a great description. I think that's better than I could. Those are better words than I could have put to it for sure. Got introduced in Rebels, which came out in the last decade. So we've got a lot of possibilities of what we could see in the next episode of Ahsoka, and that led us to the idea for our episode this week. What if we did the same thing? What if we looked out across the Star Wars timeline and asked, what if? An example, what if Anakin never turned to the dark side and never became Darth Vader? I feel like that's a very popular one you see online because, that is the main conflict and climax, turning point, whatever you want to call it, in Star Wars canon, right? So that's kind of an example of what we're trying to get at. What are some pivotal moments across Star Wars that could have happened differently? And that's what we are here to do today. Is we're gonna dive deep down some rabbit holes today. So be prepared. We might have some pure lunacy conversations today, but like that's what this whole thought experiment is for. So Joseph and Trent and I have prepared 2 scenarios each, kind of pivotal moments in the timeline where we think we would have seen a much different story had these things happened. And just talk about like what would this alternate reality have looked like in the Star Wars timeline? Is this something that could be explored at the World Between Worlds potentially, and actually on the screen later on? So with that, Trent, I'm going to kick it over to you, and you can get this thought experiment started with your first scenario.
All right, so I'm going to take all you lovely people back to Return of the Jedi. It's the end of the trilogy at the moment. It's the final Star Wars movie we knew at the time. And right before the pivotal throne room scene, Darth Vader offers Luke a choice. He says, "Son, join me. We can overthrow the Emperor, and we can do the whole ruling the galaxy thing our way." And so I posit, what if Luke took him up on that? What if Luke went full dark? We saw it almost happen when he chopped Vader's hand off in the throne room as a canon event anyway. So yeah, let's say Vader and Luke throw empty palps down that reactor shaft, and they destroy any cloning technology so that Palpatine can't come back 30 years later in some random way. So yeah, I'm just thinking, what if Luke went fully bad? I know I'm hearing you angry Star Wars fans. You didn't like grumpy Luke in The Last Jedi. I'm taking it further. He goes full on dark.
Oh,
But here's the thing, because I was realizing this opens up some cool ripple effects. Does this mean Leia fully becomes a Jedi in this timeline? Because she's sort of the last Jedi at that point. And in this, Ben Solo can still definitely exist. And does he end up being the Jedi who fights Luke later down the couple decades removed? I don't know. I think there's just some cool down the line conflict for Leia, Han, Ben, Solo. I think there's just a lot of cool stuff. What do you guys think?
So, as I'm thinking about this one, that was like the night before the Battle of Endor.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've got a lot of stuff going on. Does Luke stop? So they obviously have to go up to the Death Star and kill the Emperor.
Yep.
Yeah.
But how long does that take if they've got like some purpose about it? I'm like, okay, we're gonna go fight the Emperor and kill him. At that point, Rebel fleet probably pulls up and is like, the shield is still up. We're in trouble.
Yeah.
But in this instance, maybe Luke goes down to the surface to stop the rebels from destroying the shield generator.
Ooh.
And he ends up having a fight with Han and Leia.
Oh, wow.
And in this instance, Harrison Ford gets his wish, and Luke in his anger kills Han Solo.
He gets to die.
Oh my gosh,
sooner.
Joseph, don't do that to me. Oh,
Leia escapes and becomes the Jedi.
Ooh, I like that.
Okay, so there's all right.
And
so
the Rebel fleet gets like annihilated.
So we are assuming that Luke joining Vader is a full dark side switch. It's not him recruiting Vader to come join the rebels.
I was viewing it more as a full dark side switch, but you're right. There is like permutations you could do there too.
See, Han Solo in this case is Luke Skywalker's younglings. It's like he's bad before, but then
oh my gosh,
he goes off and kills him, and then he's like full on dark yellow eyes, and he's like,
"Oh no!
All right, I gotta go kill Admiral Akbar and Mon Mothma and everybody else in the rebel leadership."
Oh,
and Leia manages to escape. Maybe gets Mon Mothma and Admiral Akbar and some of the ships out of there.
Okay, so I have some questions now. Let's stay on this because first question: Luke and Vader decide to take down Palpy.
Yeah,
Palpy's gone.
Palpy's gone.
What does that mean for the hierarchy of the Empire? Like, is there not going to be a little jostling for top dog between Luke and Vader?
Oh no, I think
not just Luke and Vader.
Who else? We talking Thrawn?
So in this instance, Thrawn is gone. But
Thrawn's gone. You're right.
The Emperor has his contingency plan for his death. So really, it's
Battle of Jakku.
Yeah. So really, it's Luke and Vader and loyal Imperials to them, and then like a section of the Empire that goes with Admiral Sloane under the leadership of Fleet Admiral Rax, which is basically the story of the Aftermath books.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got in the middle of the Galactic Civil War an Imperial Civil War, and maybe the Rebel Alliance is able to survive enough at Endor to kind of regroup. And maybe depending on how long it takes for them to kill the Emperor, because the battle starts, the fight between Luke and Vader in the Prime timeline starts, about the time the Rebel fleet arrives. So maybe everything on the ground goes down the same. They destroy the shield generator. Death Star 2 explodes, but Luke and Vader escape.
Okay. All right. So I like that idea because I think I like the idea of neither side coming out as the outright victor and neither side completely fading away. Yeah. Right? Like, and the idea that there could be factions within the Empire now. Like my mind immediately went to our guy, why am I forgetting his name? Moff Gideon.
Mm-hmm.
From Mando. I'm assuming he would be on the Emperor's faction, right?
I don't know, because he's like weird about the Force, so I think
That's true.
He might stick with Luke and Vader.
Interesting. Okay, so we could have competing forces within the Empire.
That would be interesting, actually, is if like Luke and Vader teaming up crushes the Rebel Alliance eventually, but then infighting within the Empire like breaks that down. That would be like an interesting long term, like 50-year effect.
So what about so the other side? This was my other question. Like, Obi-Wan is dead.
Yeah.
Yoda's dead. Leia has 0 Jedi training, right?
Yeah.
Like pretty much 0, unless Luke snuck some in between Empire and Return of the Jedi. But I don't think so. What does she do?
I think
Ahsoka.
Yeah, I think Ahsoka could come in. Yoda could pull his Last Jedi, Force Ghost trick and be like, "Yo, Luke, you need to go check out, or Leia, you need to go check out these books that are on the island that I already forget the name of."
And we've got Cal Kestis, who's still out there somewhere.
Interesting.
We don't have a confirmed death yet on Quinlan Voss. I think it ends up being Ahsoka, though.
I think it's got to be Ahsoka. Leia is just so she's so political and at this point basically a war general.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I got it in my head now.
All right, go for it.
This is where we're going.
All right.
The cutback duels in Revenge of the Sith with Anakin and Obi-Wan and Yoda and Palpatine.
Mm-hmm.
Ahsoka versus Vader, Luke versus Leia.
Oh,
Joseph, you are firing on all cylinders today. Let's go.
There we go.
And at some point, I'm still hung up on. At some point, Luke has killed Han Solo.
Yeah, I think that's.
I agree. That's the right choice.
Yeah,
I think that's the right choice. Does that mean Chewbacca's alive without Han, and we have to see Chewbacca move on?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we do.
That's devastating. I mean, I guess we already saw that in the sequel.
Chewbacca finds his newfound brotherhood with C-3PO.
Okay, yeah. I'm down with that. The Ahsoka Vader Luke Leia duels would be. I'm almost like I need a Star Wars What If series just to see that.
Yeah, like that would be iconic, right? Like,
so how does this end? How does this scenario end? Where do we end? 30 years down the road.
I think since the both Skywalker boys in evil mode are some emo immature boys. Let's be real here. I think long term Leia and Ahsoka, if they get their heads together, they're cooking up schemes. Like they got this on lock. It may take a while. Like the rebellion might take a hit, but I think that they're clowning on the Skywalker men eventually here. And it's
so I think what could maybe happen is in the duel on Malachor, Vader, before Ezra interfered, was going to win.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And so I think what happens is we see some Jason and Jaina Solo mischief with Luke and Leia, and Leia ends up killing Luke in their fight. Darth Vader mortally wounds Leia. Or not Leia. Ahsoka.
Yeah.
And this happens in like the second movie of the trilogy. And then in the third movie is where Leia goes and fights Vader for the first and only time and wins.
Oh, I like that.
I like it a lot.
Very interesting. I could see this scenario playing out in a neither side truly wins kind of way. I just think this extends a war another 10 to 20 years, and it takes like crucial deaths on both sides for it to finally end. And maybe Leia does end up victorious, but the rebellion's toast, and she's gotta start everything from scratch. I really feel like that's where this goes. That is an excellent scenario, guys. Way to kick things off, Trent.
Thank you.
That was incredible. All right, Joseph, why don't you introduce our next one?
All right, so my scenario goes all the way back to the beginning. What if Darth Maul won the Duel of the Fates?
Yes, let's talk about it.
I've got gigantic rabbit holes in this one. So basically what happens is the end of the Phantom Menace is largely unchanged. except for Obi-Wan being dead. The end of the movie is pretty much the same, with a few little different caveats. Obviously, Darth Maul is still alive. He escapes Naboo. And Anakin does not become a Jedi Padawan. And so what we see is Anakin doesn't become a Jedi, but he's not gone from the story.
Mm-hmm.
Palpatine is like, I'm going to see what I can do with this kid, and kind of brings him on as like his ward, almost like a Batman and Robin, kind of like a father-son scenario. And what do you do if you're Palpatine and you want to inspire complete loyalty from Anakin? Hey, buddy, we're going to go get your mom off of Tatooine.
Ooh.
And Anakin is going to be trained in the Force, but not by Palpatine at first. Now, and not by Darth Maul. It's imperative to Palpatine that Anakin not know he can use the Force.
Wow.
He doesn't get trained by Darth Maul either, who is still seen as a bad guy. He's trained by another Force-sensitive person that's friends with Palpatine and knows what's up. So outside of the Jedi, Anakin is trained by Count Dooku.
Ooh.
All right. I was wondering if that's where this was going.
So what happens is as the galaxy starts going back and forth, Count Dooku, while a Sith person, is trying to show Anakin that the Confederacy is really where the galaxy needs to go. So Anakin's getting split between his two mentors, Palpatine and Dooku. And so as Anakin is being trained as like a pseudo Jedi, he finally chooses to stay with Palpatine before the Clone Wars begins. And Count Dooku reveals himself to Anakin to be the Sith Master, and says that Darth Maul is his apprentice, but that he wants Anakin to take over. And so Anakin is like, no, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to turn to the dark side, you scumbag. So what does Count Dooku do except order Darth Maul to kill Shmi Skywalker?
Oh, wow.
And so Anakin then goes nuts, but he doesn't get to kill Darth Maul yet. So he goes back to Palpatine, and Palpatine does the manipulation about the same, where they still get the Clone Wars started. And Anakin has his best friend, Padme Amidala, by his side in all of this. And their romance doesn't have to be as much of a secret because he's not a Jedi. And he's like Palpatine's aide, and they could say that they grew up together, kind of under Palpatine's watch. And so what happens is the way that Anakin kind of turns to the dark side is really similar, just without some of Obi-Wan's influence.
Yeah.
But he finally gets to it, and he's fighting, and Count Dooku is still the head of the Confederacy. So about the time that Revenge of the Sith comes around, the Clone Wars has been raging. Anakin has been kind of promoted to be a civilian general, and the Jedi don't really like it, but they kind of let it go. And they're also generals. So Order 66 happens, and without Obi-Wan needing to be taken out, there's not really much holding Anakin together. Darth Maul comes in, and Anakin like murks him. And so the Duel of the Fates ends up being, or not the Duel of the Fates, the battle at the end ends up being Anakin and Count Dooku on like Mustafar, but Anakin wins.
Oh.
But in his win, he's like fully embraced the dark side.
Yeah.
And so Padme does the whole thing where she's like, I can't be with you, dark side man. And it goes about the same. But we still have someone that Padme is friends with that comes to fight Anakin.
Oh, I wonder who it is.
Yoda.
Oh, not who I thought it was.
No, so Yoda comes in and he beats Anakin in kind of a similar way that Obi-Wan did. And they have to leave. Padme dies around the same way. Um, Anakin doesn't quite have to go into the Darth Vader suit, but he does get messed up. And sometime during this is when Palpatine has revealed himself, and he's like, Count Dooku was a usurper, and he was trying to take over, and it's good that you killed him.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so at the end of this, we have the twins are still born, and Yoda takes Luke with him to Dagobah and trains him from like birth to be a Jedi. And Bail Organa still has Leia.
Wow.
And so what we see in here is almost like the stone in the river effect.
Yeah.
Where you can move the river side to side, but ultimately it's going to the same end.
I like that.
Joseph,
I
my
must say,
goodness.
that was like so fully detailed. Like that was a full like pitch. Like Lucasfilm could pay you for that. And
So there we go.
I was about to say.
What am I missing? What kind of thoughts we got on here?
I don't think you're missing anything, man. That was like thought out. Like
I do have one. I have one. There's one thing I think is missing.
Oh.
So this is in my head, like as you were talking. So like, I love the fact that like you just said, it's the stone in the river. The path is still the end result is still the same. The path is just a little different. However, where's Ahsoka in all of this? That would be my question.
That's the one thing I don't know. Ahsoka was, specifically assigned to Anakin. Maybe
like who? Yeah, who? Maybe
she's just dead. I don't know.
Oh,
and we have to and we have to figure out. We haven't seen all of the Ahsoka show.
Yeah,
they're dealing with the stone in the river. Someone has to kind of take her place in whatever's going on.
Because we talked about it in our episode a couple weeks ago, right? Ahsoka's character is so shaped by Anakin. So I just wonder, if she's, let's say Mace Windu decides to be Ahsoka's master, or I don't know, Kit Fisto, like just like one of these other Jedis out there. Mm-hmm. She's a totally she's not a different person fully, but like it's nowhere near the same. It's nowhere near the same. It almost makes me wonder, like, we talked about that scene in Tales of the Jedi of Anakin training Ahsoka, and it ends up helping her survive Order 66. Like, what if she dies in Order 66 because she didn't have Anakin there to train her? Like that's where my mind immediately goes. But it just, they're so connected as characters. That'd be crazy to like remove them apart. That would be so interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe you could have even like a mentorship type of thing where, there's a train going by.
Yeah, that's all right.
But maybe they still have like a friendship almost. Or there's another Jedi that Anakin could be friends with that maybe they're the duel of the fates, maybe. Or the battle of heroes. Because, at this point, as we see Anakin, he's still a major general in the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
And he's like the poster child of the Republic, especially in this scenario, because the Emperor is pushing him up to the forefront, saying, like, this is my guy. He's like my kid right here, bro. He's going to be good.
Yeah. The chosen one in a different way.
Let him cook.
Let him cook. Exactly. Let him cook. That was fantastic, Joseph. I that was fantastic. I also I think when you there's still a common there's a common factor with both your story and the story that actually unfolds in Star Wars, and that's that Qui-Gon dies in both scenarios. And I feel like that's so informative of the story of Star Wars. If Qui-Gon doesn't die, everything changes, right?
Oh, I mean, like, I think if Qui-Gon lives, like, everything works out super fine.
Yeah.
Like, I genuinely, like, believe that. Like,
I think completely agree. I think there'd still be a Clone Wars.
Yeah, but I think it would go a lot better because he would be putting the Jedi Council in check about like their over eagerness to get involved
Yes.
regularly.
Yeah, and if you look at it that way, so Qui-Gon takes Anakin as his Padawan. Maybe Obi-Wan becomes Ahsoka's master. Maybe Obi-Wan becomes someone else's master, and
Yeah.
then Anakin could still become Ahsoka's master.
Yeah.
Ooh,
And the 10 years later.
I like
Yeah.
that. I like that.
It's that Joseph, that was phenomenal. Just
That
like
was
big
like
kudos to you. Big kudos to you.
Hey, I do my best.
Hey man, that was like full fanfic novel material right there. Like I really appreciated that. Okay, it's my turn next. And Trent and I are actually gonna have back to back. These two work in tandem, but they kind of go separate ways, but there's a connecting piece to them. So my scenario is, what if in the Clone Wars, when Ahsoka leaves the Order and her and Anakin are standing outside the Jedi Temple having this very emotional moment as Ahsoka says goodbye, and Anakin, instead of saying, "You have no idea how hard or how badly I would love to leave the Jedi Order," instead he says, "All right, I'm going to leave with you. That's it. Both of us leave the Jedi Order together and we figure this out together." What happens if Anakin leaves the Order with Ahsoka? What does that change in the timeline? I think there's a gap of time in the canon where Ahsoka is gone from the Order that we just don't have a lot of material on, other than a little bit in Clone Wars season 7. So what if during that time Anakin, the chosen one, is with Ahsoka out in the world outside of the Jedi Order? What happens to Obi-Wan and Yoda and Mace Windu as they're kind of like this trio trying to figure things out at top of the Jedi Order? Does that wake the Jedi Order up to their uh incompetence to run this thing smoothly? Does this send one of them after this pair? What happens? I'm gonna leave this. I don't have a story crafted so eloquently like Joseph did, so I'm gonna leave this one up to you guys. What happens in this scenario?
Well, I know we haven't seen the end of Ahsoka yet, but I actually see a very similar dynamic to what we're seeing with Balin happening with
Ooh,
I think because like Balin doesn't seem to be a full on Sith in Ahsoka. He seems to be like definitely like on the dark side, but like he has like principles and a cause he believes in. So as you were talking, I'm like, you know what makes sense to me? I think Anakin and Ahsoka, at least at the beginning, they turn into like their version of Robin Hood. Like they go punishing what they
yeah.
view as injustices in various people. Like they get rid of the whole slave trade thing by their own hand in Tatooine to like avenge his mom, and then
Ooh,
maybe like they start out doing stuff that's like, hey, that's technically a vigilante thing, but that's good, and then it gets like darker and darker and darker, and maybe then that's when the council sends either Obi-Wan or Mace Windu, because let's be honest, Mace Windu's wanted to do something to Anakin the entire
Yeah.
trilogy. So Mace Windu is absolutely signing up first shift of like, yeah, let's go hunt Anakin down. Absolutely. Um, so yeah, I think that's happening. In terms of waking the Jedi Order up, no, I think unfortunately I love Yoda, but he's so confident in what he's doing at all times. I don't think anything changes. The real question is, where's Palpatine do that his homeboy that he was grooming
yes.
to be like Mr. Sith Lord just like pieced out to do his own thing? Like what? Like does Palpatine just sit there stuttering and then eventually like the thing that'd be funny is if Obi-Wan not being distracted by Anakin's hijinks, if he's able to figure out Palpatine a lot faster and is like,
Yep.
oh wait, Palpatine's definitely a Sith Lord. We should do something about that.
Great
Like that.
call. Great call.
That's what I think is going to happen.
So I've got a completely different thing that I think is going to happen, but I like that. I think it's not called the Grand Army of the Jedi. It's the Grand Army of the Republic. So Palpatine's going to be like, you know what, Anakin and Ahsoka? You're still the general and a commander in this Grand Army.
Ooh.
You just don't answer to the Jedi Council anymore. Have fun with the 501st,
Ooh.
boys.
Ooh.
And that drives a bigger wedge between the Council and Palpatine. And so then Mace Windu's like, I'm tired of this crap.
Yeah.
And we have the duel from episode 3, maybe faster,
Yeah.
because he goes in and is like, "Suck it, Chancellor," and Palpatine is like, "Huh, you thought," and gets the jump on him because nobody knows he's a Sith Lord now.
Right. Right.
So he's like, "Cool, Mace Windu's out of the picture," and yeah, I think they keep Anakin and Ahsoka in the hierarchy of like the army of the Republic.
Yeah.
But they're just like, okay, you guys coordinate with the Jedi, but you don't really have to do what they say anymore.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, I think about what happens with Obi-Wan. That I think that is where like he loses his apprentice. Instead of Anakin losing his apprentice, Obi-Wan loses his. And what does that drive Obi-Wan to do? Because Obi-Wan is very, compared to Anakin, very dutifully committed to the Republic and to the Jedi Order. And so what happens if Anakin is still on the Republic side but working kind of against him? That's an interesting concept to me.
So like Obi-Wan is a pretty reasonable guy.
Yes.
I think he gets mad at Anakin for making an impulsive decision. But if we look at Obi-Wan, he's definitely like your stereotypical Jedi, but he also has like friends everywhere. Like Dexter and I'm blanking on other people right now, or Satine, and he's like, you know, different kinds of friends with Satine, but whatever. But I think he gets to the point where he's like, you know what, Anakin, you're okay, and if you need some help, I got you.
Yeah, I kind of think so too, because I think I one of you said it earlier, I can't remember, but I think that this frees Obi-Wan up. This frees him up a little bit to think a little more critically about what's happening around him, and not be always concerned about what Anakin's going to do on a mission and go rogue. So yeah, I honestly think this could lead to ultimate victory for the Jedi Order if Anakin had left with Ahsoka. I don't know. I think Obi-Wan, it would be a key component in that too. So, Trent, you had a similar scenario.
Yeah, so my thing was, what if Ahsoka never left the Jedi Order and she just stayed with Anakin? And so largely Revenge of the Sith is going the same way, but it's interesting that since Ahsoka has been shown, as we talked about on the roadmap episode, like she knew more about Anakin and Padme. Like, is Ahsoka able to see some red flags from Anakin earlier on in Revenge of the Sith and talks to Obi-Wan and Padme privately and is like, hey, Anakin seems a little off. We should maybe do some intervening. Does she resolve it with Anakin diplomatically before we even get to full dark side stage? Or my more action-heavy approach is Anakin still goes dark. She goes to Mustafar to fight him, and then Obi-Wan and Yoda get to tag team on the Emperor this time.
Ooh.
And I think that makes that so much more interesting, because I think in that case, Yoda and Obi-Wan handled the Emperor fine, but I think you could argue either way. Anakin could take Ahsoka out on Mustafar, and he's still like the big bad of the emerging Empire. Or if Ahsoka does defeat him, what does that do to her long term? I don't know. I think there's just a lot of interesting things if she stays, for sure.
I don't think Yoda and Obi-Wan handle the Emperor easily. I think one of them goes down in the fight.
Ooh,
really?
Yeah. I think one of them goes down.
Oh, what if it's Obi-Wan and then Yoda has to really live with like a concrete example of his arrogance? That would be interesting.
Yep.
Oh, yes. That's what I'm talking about. That would be fascinating.
I was thinking Obi-Wan would be the one that eats it.
Yeah.
And
I think you're right.
And at this point, I don't think Ahsoka could beat Anakin.
I agree.
It'd be close.
It'd be close. It'd be a good fight.
I think maybe she'd get away.
Yeah, because I mean,
I see. So she doesn't die, but she escapes.
Because George Lucas has clarified in the behind the scenes for Revenge of the Sith, which I watched 100 times as a kid, that that Obi-Wan is the better fighter at this point on Mustafar, but Anakin is more powerful, like objectively.
Yeah, because Obi-Wan is like the master of defensive lightsaber fighting.
Yes.
It's like he may not be the most skilled fighter, but you're not getting through.
Right, exactly.
So,
he's got that
so I
lockdown
think,
defense.
yeah, and
Like the
then
Cowboys last night.
Yeah, for real. Or I won't do that to you. You've suffered enough.
I'm like the younglings over here.
But just I'm sorry.
You're good. Go. I did that to myself. I set myself up for that alley-oop poster slam on me. All right, go ahead.
It's okay. But I think if Ahsoka gets away, she might be more of the Padme mindset when she gets back together with Yoda. Like, nah, he goofed up, but I think we could get him back.
Mm-hmm.
And Yoda's more like, nah, we're killing him.
See, I'm with you, Joseph, and I actually think if Ahsoka lives and stays if she lives from that fight with Anakin, even before that, if she stays, I think she saves Padme, because we don't like. I think we often forget the friendship that Padme and Ahsoka had. I feel like if Ahsoka stays by Anakin's side during that period of time, she's like, "Hey, you're love drunk, Padme. All right, this man is creepy and he's trying to take over the galaxy. So I would like you to distance yourself from him." And I feel like she's got the potential to save her.
Like, look, Padme, you are like 8 months and 3.5 weeks pregnant, and can you wait like a week or so to feel like you need to die? Like, just chill. Look, Padme, eat a space Snickers. It'll make you feel better. You'll be fine. Let's regroup and talk about this later.
Right. I just think their friendship is something special in the animated series that we forget about sometimes. So yeah, I kind of like that possibility. This is good. This is a good scenario. I do feel like Anakin still ends up going dark side. There's just more safeguards around a galactic empire forming.
Right. I don't think it's as absolute with Ahsoka there. I don't know if she stops it, but I think it's less for life.
Yeah. Because if we look at it in this scenario, so Order 66 still goes down, but the Emperor is also dead.
True.
So like what happens to, so if we look at it, Count Dooku's dead, General Grievous is probably dead, Palpatine is dead, all of the Jedi are dead. What kind of happens to the galaxy at that point?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do we see more of like a sequel type galaxy where everyone's just kind of like doing their own thing for a little while?
Potentially, yeah.
Or does Padme like step in as like emergency powers like Palpatine used in episode 2, but she does it like more correctly? Like she's like, "Hey, you got to tidy this up," but like I'm actually going to step aside.
I think the thing is, we see in the Clone Wars, Padme's got a lot of political enemies.
She does.
Yeah.
I don't know if she would be like emergency voted in. I think you could maybe get like a Chancellor Bail Organa.
Yeah,
he's a little more.
Yeah,
he's a little more tactful.
Yeah, he's smoothed some people over.
I think one person you could see, again, the Stone in the River, Mon Mothma.
Yes,
popping up.
Yeah.
To maybe become.
I like that.
The fill-in Chancellor.
Let my boy Luthen cook. Let him take the vice president role.
There we go.
Need to go watch that monologue again.
I know. Joseph, let's go to your second scenario.
Okay. So this is, I think, the only sequel scenario we've got in here.
Mm-hmm.
What if Rey joined Kylo Ren in the throne room after killing Snoke?
Yes, I love this one.
So I think we're going to get in this one a little bit what we got in the What If Luke Joined Vader one, is that we're going to get a First Order split. Because Rey is kind of going to... So Rey's going to go a little darker, and Ben is going to come a little lighter. And what they're going to do is pull off the attack on the Resistance.
Interesting.
And so...
You think Rey's cosigns on attacking the Resistance?
No, pull off meaning like they like pull back a hair,
I
but
see. Okay,
they're like,
okay.
she's like, hey, if we're gonna do this, I'd like you to not kill all my friends and your mom. And he's like, you know what? That makes a lot of sense. For now.
For now.
He's being manipulative because he's not turned good yet, because he never turned good because there was no movie where he turned good again. It doesn't exist. So, oh, sweet. This what if means that episode 9 doesn't happen.
Rejoice.
But what happens is we get a General Hux faction and a Kylo Ren faction. And unfortunately, Zombie Emperor is still out there.
I was going to ask about this.
And he sends out his message in Fortnite and is like, come find me. And Kylo Ren and Rey roll up and are like, we're here to kill you. And he's like, no. I have 1,000 Death Star lasers. We're going to kill everyone. And Kylo Ren's like, I don't want to rule over nothing. Another thing that comes out of this is because this character does not exert themselves, Luke Skywalker is still alive.
Yes.
And he actually reunites with the Resistance in this case.
Ooh.
To kind of join up with them. So you have rallying the remnants of the Republic and the Resistance side by side, Luke Skywalker and Princess Leia.
This is fascinating.
They're coming around. Your boy Lando shows back up.
Mm-hmm.
And as the Civil War and the First Order is going on, Rey and Kylo Ren are still having their back and forth thing, and she finally figures out, like, you know what? He's not telling the truth. I'm going to go back to my friends. And they just trustfully let her back in. Luke completes the training. And I don't know. This one's not as well thought out for me as
it's okay. It's kind of on the fly.
I still like that.
I'm curious because what I was thinking is Luke. Instead of Luke going to save the Resistance in Force Time fight Kylo on what's the planet called? Crate. Thank you. Instead of that happening, that doesn't happen at all. But it makes me think he loses Kylo Ren to the dark side, and then in his mind, he doesn't know what happened. He just knows Rey didn't come back, so he potentially lost Rey to the dark side as well. So he's failed 2 students consecutively, and it just makes me wonder. Like, go ahead.
And he doesn't have a lightsaber.
Oh my gosh! Right.
Oh,
that's
wait,
true.
He's got Leia's on Crate, but
oh yeah,
sure.
We didn't know that at the time when episode 8's happening.
Right, exactly.
So we're having to use stuff we know in episode 9 to kind of be like,
it just makes me wonder.
Fine.
Yoda has that conversation with him, like, failure is the greatest teacher of all, and if he's still, Yoda has to have that talk, and he's got to double down because he's like, yo, my guy, Luke, you're 0-2 right now.
I think Luke ends up being able to take the advice to heart finally, and is like, you know what? I'm not responsible for their actions.
Yeah.
And Luke goes and finds his old apprentice, Baby Yoda.
Yo, wait, yes.
Who is now
my gosh.
Who's now like grungy teenager Yoda.
Now we're talking. Jason Syndulla too, maybe?
Yeah, maybe Jason. Jason's got to be about 40 at this point, 35 to 40.
Something like that.
Yeah. Let's recruit him.
Ahsoka's out there, or maybe she's in this other galaxy because she got trapped there.
There you go. Who knows? Who's to say?
Don't really know what goes on with her. Maybe Sabine is a Jedi now.
Luke's in a rebuild, okay? Like Luke just got the number 1 draft pick, and it's going to be a little while before the Jedi Order's good again.
Yeah, I mean, Luke almost drafted Mitch Trubisky and Justin Fields back to back. So.
All right, okay, that's enough.
Yeah, I mean,
I really like this scenario though. It's a good thought experiment.
It's a really good one.
It's a fun one, and it gives us a little bit of a sequel shout out, so we can be like, hey, they're not all bad.
In all honesty, this is kind of what I wish would have just happened.
At the end of The Last Jedi, like in 2017, I was rooting for a flip. I was rooting for Rey to go dark and then Kylo Ren to go back, and then they would fight each other in Episode 9.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that would have
been really interesting.
Yeah, because it would have been cool how they adjust to their new like scenarios. Like the Resistance probably would not be like, "Oh, hey Ben, welcome back." They'd have been like, "You're going to prison forever, dude." Leia might be able to pull some strings and be like, "Here, take this lightsaber, run away."
But I feel like she wouldn't even do that. I feel like she'd be like, "Yeah, go ahead, sit your butt in prison right now."
She was the one in Episode 9 that kind of turned him back.
That's true.
So even after Han died, she still hadn't given up on him.
That's a good point.
So I think because Leia seems to be the more, between the two Skywalker twins, Leia is the more like emotionally stable and mature of the two of them.
Absolutely.
So I think she'd have been able to be like, yes, Snoke / Palpatine kind of groomed my son from when he was a little kid. So he definitely did this stuff, but it's not all his fault.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I can see that. Okay, we have one more to go. I'm going to give my final scenario. And this one is interesting, okay? Like I genuinely don't know where I think this would go. So I'm going to need discussion here. So we're going to go back to the original trilogy. We're technically going to go back to the prequel trilogy, right as that one ends and as we transition into the Age of the Rebellion. Anakin turns to the dark side. Obi-Wan defeats him on Mustafar. And then Episode 3 ends with Obi-Wan meeting up with Bail Organa. And Padme just died, but gave birth to twins. And there's a boy and there's a girl, and it's Luke and Leia. And Bail Organa decides that he's going to take Leia with him and his wife to Alderaan and raise her there. And then Obi-Wan's like, I'll take Luke back to his father's home planet where I'm sure no one will ever come searching for him. And so takes Luke.
Vader's not going to go there because of all the sand.
Yeah. Great point. Yeah. That logic checks out for sure. Obi-Wan decides he'll take Luke to Tatooine and watch him from afar. So my what if these two children got their fates were reversed? What if Bail Organa wanted to raise Luke? Or what if Obi-Wan specifically requested to train Leia in the Force on Tatooine? What happens in the story of the original trilogy if Luke is raised in a more political environment, in a safer environment, in a more stable environment, and Leia is stashed away on Tatooine, kept away from like civilization, so to speak, and eventually is trained by Obi-Wan in the Force? Or is that even how it happens? I have some ideas of the people, the characters that Luke and Leia are. I do think things will turn out differently. Leia is a very like ambitious and driven character, whereas Luke is a little more of a dreamer. And so what do you guys think? Do you guys have any theories on this?
So to go off of another what if, based on how Luke is, I think if he's raised in Alderaan in that luxury man, he turns into like Party Thor from that one episode of What If, where he just,
I like that.
Like he just turns into like the most chill bro, doesn't care about anything mode. Whereas Leia isn't like, Leia's not like Luke, where it's like, hey, Obi-Wan, Ben Kenobi, that sounds kind of close. She like figures that out like day one. She's like, hey, you're 100%. Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're a Jedi. Like I know you're trying to be all secretive, but you are 100% training me in the Force. And she like beats Obi-Wan down into training her. And so I think, yes, she gets trained and she becomes like you said, Josh, she's laser focused. So I think she becomes like the most OP Jedi we've met since Yoda. And like,
interesting.
I think she schools Darth Vader. Like I think the whole original trilogy goes by a lot simpler and streamlined without emo Luke at the controls. As much as I love him.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm kind of inclined to agree. I didn't have Party Thor in my head, but I think you're right. I think Luke, when you switch them, Leia is definitely the one that could adjust better. Like
Yeah.
Luke is going to become so soft, and he's going to suck at the political stuff, and Bail Organa is going to be like, dude, what the heck? And Leia's going to grow up, and she's not going to be like, I was going to Tashi Station. She's like, suck it, Uncle Owen. I am going to Tashi Station.
Yeah.
I'll deal with these crappy droids when I get back.
Yeah.
And she just goes off and does it. And yeah, I think she adjusts to the like the desert better than I think Luke would do. I kind of agree with Trent. I think she'd become like they'd be pulling out the Mary Sue stuff on Leia because I think she'd just be so good at it.
Yeah.
Because we've never really seen Leia be bad at anything except like expressing her emotions in the original trilogy. She's not great at that. You know, we kind of have the back and forth with Han where she's trying to figure out what she's thinking because she's always been this like professional type of thing because where Bail Organa basically raised her to be a queen pretty much and a politician. So I think this is another one though where we get the stone in the creek where Luke ends up it's almost like they have flipped roles, but they go about it in the same way. Like Luke is this really immature politician kid that's just a party freak. But as he grows, he becomes more of a statesman as the trilogy goes on.
Yeah. Yep.
And then Leia is just like a natural leader and Jedi throughout the whole trilogy. Where we don't see her abilities really change that much. Like Leia in Episode 4 and Leia in Return of the Jedi could probably pull off about the same stuff politically. Whereas she doesn't have to grow too much in her experience, but she grows like emotionally and is growing closer to like her friends and stuff. I think they would just do that but switched, where they'd have the same story beats with different situations.
Yeah, I'm like there are ripple effects here too, where I'm like, without Leia, does the rebellion form as strongly?
Yeah,
I'm like, I don't.
A great general. That's a very good point.
I'm not sure that it does, and
because it doesn't get huge into the military part of it until after the Battle of Yavin.
Yeah,
so that's true. I think we see Luke do some of that, but Bail Organa has more pull on what's going on. You know, you remember Leia doing the mercy missions and Rebels. I think Luke fumbles it a little bit.
Yeah.
He doesn't get like caught or anything. He kind of lucks out, but it doesn't go as smoothly. So maybe they're not able to deliver as many supplies. But I think largely the story of the rebellion is similar.
Yeah, I think it's similar, but I think there's less like another ripple effect to me is I'm not sure that our heroes in A New Hope ever meet. I'm not sure that Luke and Leia ever meet Han and Chewie because Leia might get off Tatooine far sooner than Han and Chewie arrive on Tatooine. And I just think without that group together, there's a real chance that there is a lack of infrastructure. One, like Leia could absolutely go in and kick butt and take the Empire down as this powerful Jedi. But what's left when the fight's over? I feel like there's some weak infrastructure.
So one thing I just thought of about the military aspect of it is Leia's not the pilot.
Right. I thought about this too.
So Luke could be in like the rebellion as like a combat pilot.
He could.
Before then, and Leia only does the Jedi stuff.
Yeah.
Because I think both of them, regardless, were going to become a great Jedi. Didn't really matter. But they'd have different skills as a Jedi. I think Leia would be better at like the mind trick and like manipulation stuff like that than Luke is. And Luke is more like the combat, and I think he would grow to have maybe more patience with training people than Leia because of how much of a pain Luke knows himself to be. Whereas Leia is like, well, I've been awesome all the time. Why aren't these other clowns being awesome?
Great point. Great point. Well, I think that's gonna wrap it on our scenarios. I put a notice out there on social media, and we got a few responses from some audience members. So we're gonna run through a few of those real quick. Our good friend Moscano wrote in, "What if Order 66 was stopped and it was not ultimately executed?" Brief thoughts on that. What do we think?
So the interesting thing is, so the clone troopers don't go bad, and assuming like the Jedi help them out, like the clones and the Jedi team up, and so it's do they eventually work together to deduce that it was Palpatine? Because there's nothing directly connecting Palps to Order 66. I don't think
That's true.
or at least not the microchip and
Well,
planning
because
part.
he's Darth Sidious in the hologram.
Right, but like, but if it was stopped, I guess it depends on how you define stopped. Like if
Great point.
Right, like if you catch on to the microchip earlier before the command is issued, then you never know it's Palpatine. But if we're saying they're activated still, but it's stopped, then yeah, then it's just awesome because then the clone troopers and the Jedi all team up to clone on Darth Sidious, which is great. But yeah, it's an interesting thing of like what happens with fives and all that stuff.
Yes, that's what I think of. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it depends too on when it stopped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if five stops it, fives has the evidence.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he could be like, hey, y'all need to get Palpatine. And I think what Palpatine does is the petty thing. If he knows, you guys have seen the Shawshank Redemption, right?
Yeah.
Believe it or not, I have not.
Great movie.
I'm over 2.
Trent, you remember at the end of the movie what the warden does?
Yeah.
I think Palpatine almost does something like that and just sends Order 66 out to everybody before they can take everyone's chips out. And so he's like, all right, if I'm going down, the Jedi are going down too.
Okay.
And he goes scorched earth on everybody. But then also what you've got is the clones are loyal to the Republic. So if he's able to escape and be like, the clones turned on the Jedi because the Jedi tried to kill me, I think you could still have something similar happen. And also, as Mace Windu says, he has control of the Senate and the courts. Like the Jedi have to go on like a kill mission. Yeah. They're like, okay, we have to completely discredit ourselves in the eyes of the Republic to save the Republic.
That's interesting. That's very interesting. Yeah.
They're like, the Order can continue, it'll suck, but we don't have to be on Coruscant. But if Palpatine wins, everything sucks.
Interesting.
That's very interesting. Yeah. I could see that happening, honestly. All right, we have a few others, and these are just for kicks and giggles. All right, Trent. This is close to you. M puts out your sister puts out. What if I'm sorry, I almost read the wrong one. What if Padme was alive? What if she just lived?
So I think this is interesting. Mainly, I think this doesn't actually change Revenge of the Sith or any of the original trilogy that much. What I think this mainly changes is like what's happening now with Ahsoka and Mando season 3, where I think Padme is either running the New Republic with Mon Mothma or instead of. And so I think this whole thing of like in Ahsoka, there's that whole thing where it's like, hey, all these people are still loyal to the new Empire. I think Padme's helping clean that up a lot better. I think the New Republic has a lot more firm footing for like if she and Mon Mothma are tag teaming that together, like they just got their stuff together so much more. Also, I would just love to see some Padme and Hera mentoring. Like, if she would be both an enabler, but also like you need to cool your jets a little bit. Like, I believe you.
I love that.
But you need to. So yeah, I think that relationship would just be the best. I think those are the two biggest
That'd be awesome.
things.
I think Padme would have had to go so far into hiding.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah. Yes.
For the entirety of the war, and then when they come out at the end, I think she still gets separated from Luke and Leia.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, I agree.
I think they're like, look, we need to keep all three of you separate. because if Darth Vader finds one of these kids, big deal. They could just be a kid. If he finds you with the kids, it's over. So she makes the sacrifice and kind of goes into like mega hiding somewhere where nobody knows where she is. And then when she hears that Vader and the Emperor are dead, she's like, all right, hit my music. It's time for me to show up again. And she come back.
Yeah.
And kind of talks to like Mon Mothma or somebody that she knew, and is like, hey, yeah, we need to talk about what happened the last 23 years. So you can be like, oh, I know why Padme was gone. And also you cannot tell anybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think too, it'd be interesting because I think after the war's over, she'd show up to Luke and be like, or Luke and Leia be like, hey guys, I'm your mom.
That'd be wild. There'd need to be some therapy after that.
Like, I guess you found out who your dad was. But he wasn't always like that. He used to be so romantic and tell me about sand and how soft my skin was. And I'm not going to lie, I kind of maybe brought it on myself a little bit because, just kind of messing around with this teenage celibate monk. I didn't completely send him away. I didn't like, no, this is not a thing.
I'll never forget when your father called me an angel when he was 9 years old.
Wait, what? 9 years old? Yeah, I was 14. It's okay.
Oh gosh. Okay, 2 more, and these are special because they're Jar Jar specific. So, my good buddy Alex Bones, what if Jar Jar was a Sith Lord?
Can I take this one first?
Oh,
yes.
Please go ahead.
If Jar Jar was a Sith Lord, it'd all be the same because he is a Sith Lord.
Exactly.
There'd be no
Why are we having
differences?
That is the story. That's the story.
Jar Jar is actually Darth Plagueis.
I've seen those videos of he makes the Force jump in the Phantom Menace twice. It's not bad editing. It's a Force jump.
Exactly. It's a specific style. All right, let's not like the drunken warrior style. Like, come on, let him cook.
And then there was the scene in Attack of the Clones. He put his hand on Padme's shoulder and did some Jedi mind tricks.
Right. This is all real.
And then there was the scene in Revenge of the Sith where he looked sad.
And that's yes.
Yeah.
And that's all you need to know.
I'm about to say this is canon. That we don't need to speculate.
Case confirmed. Exactly. And then our most recent guest, my brother-in-law Zach asked, "What if Jar Jar was in every movie?" And I think we would have. I mean, Star Wars has made a lot of money, but I think they may have bought Disney instead of Disney buying it. Had Jar Jar been in every movie,
easily.
100% on Rotten Tomatoes across the board.
Every single movie.
Even though the 3 movies he's in are not 100%, they just get like bumped up to 100%.
In all serious note, I would love to see like in the original trilogy timeline, like old grizzled Jar Jar after like realizing that he was the one who gave emergency powers to the Chancellor. And like, what does that do to his psyche? And he's like, Misa, my fault.
So go read. Actually, don't if you don't want to, because they're written very poorly. But that's in the Aftermath books.
Oh, it is. Oh, perfect.
Yeah, that's when he's the clown, right?
Yeah, he's like a clown on Naboo that just like entertains kids and has a vague understanding that he ruined everything.
Ooh.
That's so sad.
That's dark.
I can't remember.
But I kind of want to see that.
There's 3 Aftermath books. I can't remember which one it's in. I think it might be the first one, because there's the main through line story, but then the author puts in little interludes that's like just glimpses into what's going on in the rest of the galaxy outside of the main story of the Aftermath trilogy. Which the story itself is pretty good.
Yeah,
it's just extremely poorly written.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it sounds interesting to me, honestly. All right, well, guys, that's it.
That
That's
was,
it for our what if scenarios. That was a very, very fun time. I
that was,
enjoyed that a lot.
I
That
had a
was
great time.
Joseph. Yeah, I think you should. Once the writer strike is over, you should throw your hat in the ring. I think you got a future in writing, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Why don't you guys should send that message to my English teacher from high school? Be like, look, he's not actually horrible at writing. He's just horrible at writing that.
Exactly. You were giving him the wrong prompts the whole time. Come on. Now.
You were trying to teach him. He was trying to create art here. Okay?
Right. Exactly.
We used to do these essays where you had to read into the essay and figure out what it is. And I was like, I have no idea what the deeper meaning of this is. And then one day we did a poem about the moon rising, and I was like, the moon and the hawk are representative of whatever. And I got the paperback. She's like, this time it actually really just was what was in the poem. It was just the moon. I was like, I can't win. I just can't win.
That was always brutal when you like.
That's so hard, man.
When you try to dig in the layers, and they're like, nah, that was the surface value one. It's like, no, like you can't do that.
Stop it! Don't tell me that. Hey, art's in the eye of the beholder, man.
It's subjective.
Exactly. Well, that's going to wrap our what if scenario discussion. We are going to bounce over now to what we call on this podcast the Watcher's Domain, where we talk about what we watched in the past week. And again, the Ahsoka series is streaming, so we are going to very briefly, because I know this has been a lengthy discussion already. I would love to hear your guys' reaction to episode 4 of Ahsoka. Now, when this episode drops, episode 5 will already be out. So I feel like, we could speculate about what's going to happen, but once you're listening to this podcast, you already know what's happened in episode 5. But nonetheless, guys, I'm going to open the floor. What'd you think of this absolute blast of an episode?
My boy Balin is just killing it. Like Ray Stevenson is owning this series, in my opinion, so far.
Yeah.
But let's be real, guys. Like everybody's talking about the same thing after this. Hayden Christensen,
is back.
The comeback tour of Hayden Christensen is going to be studied, I feel like, for 20 years after this. Because that man, like, people who are below a certain age don't understand the hate this man received for years, and now he's back. Yep. And so I want to make sure with you guys here on the podcast that we're all seeing the same thing. Because I was watching the episode and then I'm studying the frame afterwards. I noticed that when Anakin showed up at the end of this episode, he did not have his signature eye scar from Revenge of the Sith. Did you all notice this?
Yeah, I did notice that. Yes.
So are we saying is this redeemed Anakin post Return of the Jedi, or is this pre Clone Wars Anakin prequel era? Or
okay, I had not thought of that first option at all.
Because I thought I was like, oh, it's redeemed Anakin, but then they went through the Vader theme at the very end of the episode on me, and I'm like, wait.
So if you look on his belt in that scene, it is Darth Vader's lightsaber.
What?
I thought I knew people were talking about the belt, but I didn't put that together.
It's not Anakin's lightsaber; it's Darth Vader's. So I think he is like a manifestation of the dark side. So I don't think that's the real Anakin.
Man,
is he like the new version of the brother from Mortis? Is that what this is?
Wait! I've got it.
Trent, no, I'm gonna be real, just real quick, Joseph. That might be it. Jake was texting me. Jake was texting me. My brother was texting me like, I think we're gonna see the brother. That would be crazy. Joseph, go ahead.
Because Sam Witwer has been credited with some voices in the show. We don't know which ones. I think. Oh man, tomorrow I think could almost be the Star Wars version of A Christmas Carol.
Ooh, we see multiple Anakins. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, like the ghost of Anakin, past, present, and future. And Ahsoka is going through looking at events throughout her whole life.
Joseph, don't tempt me with a good time.
Oh, I'm tempting you. I think that's what's going to happen. We're going to get A Christmas Carol tomorrow.
Because like I know it would be the most fan servicey thing ever, but I do want redeemed Anakin and Ahsoka to have a conversation. Like they've earned it. The fans have earned it. Like because like that would be like just a great through line between Kenobi and Ahsoka, where it's like these two like think it's their fault, and Anakin from two different perspectives takes responsibility for it.
Yep. Oh, that'd be so good.
Where you get Darth Vader relishing in it in Kenobi, and then you get Anakin apologetic in Ahsoka, being like, "No, it was me. It was a series of decisions I made that ended poorly."
Good Ghost Anakin comes out and does the Chris Pratt from the bottom of my heart. My bad.
Yeah.
Oh man, guys, I don't know. See, so before I realized the Vader situation, I was thinking this was Anakin like pre-turn coming to like recruit Ahsoka to his side.
Mm-hmm.
I could see the scar not being there as just simply a factor of the de-aging, and that's a detail they forgot to add in. But I like this. I think this idea that you're on, Joseph, of seeing multiple versions is probably a little more accurate. Now the question is, how did he get there? Is this really like the brother? Is this really like a Mortis god showing up in the World Between Worlds, or is this actually a different version of Anakin that someone else pulled out?
I've got another idea.
What's that?
So Anakin didn't remember when he was like bad guy Anakin in Mortis.
That's true. Yeah.
What if this is Anakin pulled out of Mortis in that arc in the Clone Wars?
Oh my gosh.
That's interesting.
Oh my gosh. That is such a fascinating theory, Joseph. Yeah, that's an incredible theory, Joseph. Well, guys, I think that's going to do it for today. We got a good, very filled with content discussion today. So again, when you hear this, Ahsoka episode 5 is going to be out, and you can guarantee you're going to hear us talk about it on this podcast in some form or fashion. Guys, thanks so much for being here. Thank you for dispensing your fan fiction, your theories, your wildest imaginations today. This was an absolute blast.
Thank you. Had a blast.
It was a great time.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for listening. And as always, subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us at The Stinger Pod on Instagram and TikTok. We will be back soon. May the Force be with you. We will talk to you sometime soon.